Entitlement reaches all walks of life, as you'll find out in this episode of Entitled People. Our first one is from Punk Astronaut. I work at a copy center. We print documents and photos. At 9:54 p.m., a guy came in to print business cards. First of all, why the fuck is he here 5 minutes before closing time? Second, he came in with something that can't be solved in 5 minutes because A, it's fucking business cards, and B, he started asking a bunch of stupid follow-up questions, meaning he had no idea what he needed. You're probably guessing that business cards are printed and sliced on a machine in large runs. We have a minimum of 50 plus pieces in our production facility, and that it's not done in a regular office with a Xerox machine. Even if it isn't, that's fine, because you'll likely listen politely to my explanation, realize you won't get the results you want now, and go home afterward. He didn't go home, but continued to ask if it was possible to print on a regular sheet of paper right now. I, knowing the tricks of Xerox, said that no, double-sided printing of business cards will not work. It prints with a shift of a few millimeters, and if you adjust the layout of business cards to this shift, you'd just be fucking tired of moving this shit by millimeter on screen. But the result will still not be achieved, and the color will definitely not be the same. He continued to insist that he needed these stupid business cards, and asked how long it would take me to adjust this layout, to which he received a direct answer: none. I will not be doing it, especially now. But even after that, he did not calm down, and asked to make him at least one-sided. To make him finally go away, I even printed him a couple sheets of his business card on plain paper. To clarify, I don't mind getting into a person's situation if they urgently need to do something, to help them even if my working hours are over. But this one came in with a blissful smile and a pile of questions, not giving a fuck about the fact that it's not my working hours. What killed me was when he started asking irrelevant questions like, "Where do you go to college?" Again, nothing wrong with small talk, but not at 10 p.m. I realized he's a total jerk, and at this pace, he's going to sit here until he's tongue-tied or ends up starting to hit on me. I asked him if he would take these papers, which he didn't like the color of course, and he said no. So I pointed him to the door with a straight hand and said goodbye. Edit. After reading the comments, I wanted to add one clarification. The client was out the door at 10:03 p.m. after my shift was over. Fair enough. If you think that service workers should be overworked for free because of your poor time management, go touch grass. The world doesn't revolve around you. I totally get places have business hours, but I do wish a lot of these people that go in somewhere last minute, especially at 10 p.m., I'm not really sure why the fuck you would need business cards that late, unless you had an important meeting the next day, but even then, it's like the OP said, clearly the person has poor time management and poor priority planning. This next one is by Sleep Deprived. A story from the time I spent working in a kitchen. It was a restaurant right next to a music venue, and we got busy on concert weekends, but during the off-season, it could get quiet with just a few regulars. We had music nights, and the bar was usually serving drinks until close, so we would be open all year. During a quiet, late fall day, after doing cleaning and checking dates, we had some apples that needed to be used for something before they got mealy. I used the opportunity to work on my pie recipe. We usually didn't do pies, so it was a change of pace, and it kept me busy so I would not be forced to scrub some unused corner. Pie was great, and the head chef said it was one of the best he had ever tasted. He even took one home to eat. Kitchen closes, and we clean everything and break down our stations, put dates on our stuff, and throw it in the walk-in. I get to the point I could wait out the last 10 minutes at the bar. It is 5 minutes to close, and I'm waiting on my ride home. In walks the entitled customers. 2 people for drinks at 10:55 isn't unusual. They were told we're closing soon. They say, "We want food." I stand up. "I'm sorry, the kitchen is closed and the line cooks have gone home. We can't serve food." "I thought this was a restaurant." the guy in the leather jacket sneers. We have some apple pie I made myself. I can serve that if you want dessert. No charge. I was using my best customer service to get the bartender a good tip. We want real food, the woman in the fur replies indignantly. Then you should have come in before 10. Bar is now closed. Get out, my bartender friend says unceremoniously and starts turning off lights. I walk to the kitchen, taking their cue, and turn lights off. I was in the walk-in when I heard the guy follow me into the now dark kitchen and say, "Seriously?" The bartender says, "No, that's not the door out, and I can't have you in the kitchen. Please leave the way you came in." The bartender starts printing end-of-night credit card reports. To someone unfamiliar with the kitchen, it must have looked like I walked through the door and vanished. The couple stomped out of the bar, and I poked my head out of the fridge to turn off the parking lot lights, letting them go to their car in darkness. Later, when the bartender drove me home, they told me that the couple has not only been there a few times, has never tipped, and argued the bill with the owner on more than one occasion. She had always wanted to kick them out, but when they refused free dessert to try to give food an hour after the kitchen had closed, and were so rude about it, she finally had her opportunity. The two of them never came back while I was working there. The bartender and I ate pie at her house and laughed about it. Fantastic. More entitled people that just love to come in at close. I never really could understand these people, but I guess there's a lot of them in the world that we inhabit. I'm glad though they got kicked out because they were really rude about everything. And our final one is from Illegal Avocado 2975. So when we bought the house and moved in 3 years ago, we accepted the location of the mailbox. It's on the other side of our driveway and across some uneven ground, about 50 yards away from the door. This wasn't a problem back then, but since that point, we've had a series of bad luck. Wife needed a new knee, I sprained an ankle, and while it's healed enough to walk on and go back to work, anyone who has had one knows that it can take a while before it's back to 100%. So it was decided that the mailbox ought to be moved to the end of our path for the street, straight ahead, on a flat, smooth surface, and only about 30 feet away. We asked the post office what we needed to do to move the mailbox, was told that all we needed to do was let the driver know that it was being moved and to just move it, making sure that it's numbered to match the house, so there's no confusion. Went to the store to buy a new one since the old one was getting a little ratty from getting hit a couple of times and installed it this weekend. Which, to our amusement, was the best time to install it since we actually caught the driver and were able to tell her that here was the new mailbox and that the other one was going away. Great! Situation handled. Installation goes well, and now we're on to part 2, the removal of the other mailbox. Here's where my moving the mailbox got political. The old mailbox was on the same post as my neighbor's, across the street and one house over, so we shared it. During this past election, I posted no signs supporting either of the candidates. My neighbor, John, not real name, had a half dozen signs, flags, and a banner in his yard in support of a certain candidate. John came over as I was removing the old box and complained that the only reason I was doing that was that I didn't support said candidate and that this was my petty-ass reason and that I just didn't want to be associated with him. In truth, I didn't want to be associated with him, largely before we knew he was a supporter. He wasn't a very pleasant person. Walking my dog, he'd yell at me to keep that goddamn mud off my yard, even though I was on my side of the street. He'd also call animal control on me about my chickens running loose across his yard, when in reality, it was his neighbor to his right that had the chickens. I don't have any, although I did buy a used chicken coop since it's also a very nice unit for keeping my wife's Angora rabbits in. So I could see the confusion. We used to wave for him like we'd do for any of our neighbors we'd see outside, and he never waved back, typically just ignoring us and making it a point to look at something, anything else other than us. Unless we had a dog, and he'd watch us like a hawk to make sure we didn't come near his lawn. Honestly, we disliked him long before we knew he was a supporter. I explained the medical condition, the walk through uneven ground that I stated above, but that wasn't enough for him. He threatened to call the HOA. We don't have an HOA. We have a neighborhood association that only concerns itself with collecting donations for snow removal and mosquito spraying. I just finished removing the mailbox and went back inside and vowed to ignore him from here on out. It cracks me up that they literally think somebody is moving a mailbox over politics. Like, if people are that fucking petty that they would do that, then just wow. But I feel like they're just projecting, and that's 100% something that neighbor would do, not what the OP did. Alright, that's enough entitlement for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Entitled People. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons and super thanks contributors. Have a great day and stay safe out there.